everyone. Welcome everyone to today's Hume Talk Online. My name is Maruf, and together with Pashtana, we're going to be talking to former pupil Danny Mills.
Danny was here at Hulme Grammar until 2012 and is now an associate at the prestigious London law firm Slaughter and May. Danny, welcome and thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks, pleasure to be here with you both.
Danny, let's go way back to 2005 when you first joined HGS. What's your overriding memory of HGS at that time?
I think before I joined, it was a slightly unknown and mysterious place. So all my friends from primary school were going to various of the local comprehensive schools. So I was sort of quite a daunting experience on the first day, going in, walking through the gates, and sort of sitting down in the first assembly, particularly when it sort of became clear that there was a lot of groups who knew each other from the prep school. So yeah, I was full of nerves on the first day, but I think once I settled in, I got to know quite quickly what a great place it is to be educated.
That's great. What were your favourite subjects at school, and what was it about those subjects that you loved?
Yeah, I mean, being transparent, it probably took me a while to properly engage with the curriculum. But after I'd been there for a few years and stopped messing about, I think it became quite clear that I sort of had a passion for the arts. So English, which I went on ultimately to study at university, and history were definite favourites. I enjoyed studying Latin as well, and was fairly musical. So the music lessons were always quite fun.
That's very nice. So those were the academic subjects that you loved, but what extracurricular activities did you enjoy the most?
That's a tough one. I actually think one of the things I loved the most about school and sort of probably missed the most was that you're encouraged really to try your hand at everything, and you're not really sort of put in one box. You don't have to just be the sporty guy or the academic guy or the the person who's on the stage every year in the school production. You can do none of it or all of it. I think probably on reflection, playing football on Saturday mornings was up there. My favourite memories. Recently came back to play in Mr. Budding's retirement game, which was a fun morning and brought back a lot of memories. And I think towards the end of my time at school, sort of getting involved in the various school productions was quite fun. And I think probably I think doing those shows and having to put on makeup and dress up definitely taught me not to take myself very seriously quite quickly.
Amazing to get involved in the school in all sorts of ways. In January this year, you took on an amazing challenge and competed in the 110-kilometre ultramarathon in Rwanda, raising an excess of £4,000 for Madlo Youth Zone, a charity based in Oldham. What was your inspiration for taking on such a huge challenge?
I think the origin of the inspiration was personal. So, I live in central London, spend quite a lot of time in an office, or at least working, indoors. And I think I wanted to, try and push myself physically and sort of set a challenge that would, put me out of my comfort zone a little bit. I used to love running, sort of, when I lived back up in Oldham. And it's sort of harder maybe to fit around your life here. So I thought if I set myself that goal, I have something to work towards. And then when I found the race and realised actually how big of an undertaking it would be, I thought it was probably a good opportunity to try and raise money for, and I guess raise the profile of Madlo Youth Zone, and all the guys there do a great job. So I think that was it.
That's amazing. There must have been moments of real difficulty during your training and the challenge itself. Where did you get your motivation to keep going, and what was your training schedule like?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely were challenging moments. So to take the first part of your question, the motivation was as soon as people had started donating, the money that people had put in, and the sort of kind words of support, and the fact that pretty much everyone I knew, and some people I didn't know, were aware of the challenge. So I felt like I had to do it. And balancing training with work was probably the toughest part of it, actually. work and life, like, you know, all the stuff people have going on. But I don't know, it sort of made me realize that actually when you've got your mind focused on something, you have a goal, you can often find time to put the time in and achieve that goal. Whereas I think if I hadn't sort of had the race at the end of it, you know, if it was a bit busy at work or sort of rainy outside, I might have, you know, stayed in bed. But I think, yeah, that was a good lesson. But it did involve packing it in around, you know, fairly hectic life. Yeah, I remember on Boxing Day actually last year running to Huddersfield and back, sort of, you know, after late day on Christmas Day and full of, you know, food from the day before. But, you know, that was just the free day of Christmas. So I guess, yeah, finding time around a busy schedule.
That's really inspirational. Tell us about your path from Hulme to become an associate at Slaughter and May, and what does your day-to-day job involve?
It was quite a long path. So I'm 31 now, and some colleagues of mine who are at the same level joined at the same time at 28. So I suppose in sort of saying that, I mean, I probably could have got to where I am 3 years more quickly, but I originally applied to study law at Cambridge, got an offer, but then didn't get the necessary A levels. So they wanted an A star, I didn't get one. So I was about to go off and study somewhere else when I'd sort of, for a chance encounter with a family friend, just got talking about how much I loved it. It was literature and had enjoyed studying it in A levels and stuff. And they were like, well, why are you going to study law? And that sort of hadn't really dawned on me at that point. So, well, if you want to be a lawyer, that, you know, studying law is the obvious way. But I reflected a little bit, you know, sort of did some reading about the various law conversion courses, and decided to take a punt and apply for English. So I ended up doing that. You then have to do 2 years sort of post undergraduate. So for me, it was a conversion course and then a sort of qualifying exam course. So yeah, as I say, a fairly long path, but I was lucky that towards the end of my time at university, I'd interviewed at various places, and Slaughter and May were happy to take me on. I think the day to day it's quite hard to explain because it's like extremely varied, but quite often you're, you know, trying to focus on maybe sort of drafting one contract, which might take a bit of thought and be quite complex, but whilst also fielding lots of urgent queries from other people in the firm, from clients, which is more sort of ongoing, you know, basically client management, make sure you're responsive, responding to emails whilst sort of trying to, so it's a way perhaps of putting it in context, to be sort of like revising while sort of your mum or dad's like nagging you for something at the same time. So I think there's a lot of like, you know, a lot of competing needs, I suppose.
That's so interesting. And I've heard it gets even more interesting. Your career took you to New York for a while. How did that opportunity come about, and what did that involve?
It came about because I'm lucky enough to work at a firm that, well, works internationally and then offers employees the chance to sort of apply to go and work abroad. I'd always been interested in doing so. I initially was sent to India to a law firm there in February 2020. So we all know what happened sort of just after that. COVID hit. I'd flown back home, but I'd sort of given me a taste for sort of just trying to get an experience with sort of different working practices, different cultures. And so I'd had another move sort of on my list of sort of things I'd like to achieve. And I think it was in 2022, spoke to my boss and he was happy to send me there. I think it involved, you know, a big adjustment for sure, like the sort of working style, perhaps intensity and expectations out there are different maybe than London, but it was definitely a good experience.
It's really insightful being able to go all around the world for your job. What were your highlights and lowlights of working in New York City? Did you notice a difference in work culture, and would you recommend it?
I definitely recommend it in the same way I'd sort of recommend, you know, travel generally, and, you know, to the extent you can, like mixing up work experiences as much as possible. It sort of, you know, definitely broadens your mind. And I I think specifically my job, for any aspiring lawyers listening, would definitely sort of recommend as a comment if one comes around. On the work front, I think, so I work in corporate mergers and acquisitions, so generally buying and selling international businesses, and so the type and quality of work that goes on in New York is sort of second to none in that respect. And I mean, in terms of a city and life more generally, I don't know, there's nowhere sort of quite like it really. It's still, I don't know, it felt odd at the time and it feels odd now that like every other TV show or film I watch, there'll be like a shot of New York in it, and it just feels quite odd that was, I don't know, the place I call home at some point. But yeah, it's a very fun place to live, very hectic, and it felt like although it's not that far away, it felt like a long way from home. I'm not sure I would have lived there forever, but yeah, it was good fun.
That's nice to hear. Did you always know which area of law you wanted to work in, or did that just evolve over time?
No, the latter, it definitely evolved over time. I mean, one of my sort of abiding memories of sixth form and I guess school generally is feeling pressured into making, decisions which, might impact the rest of your life. And I sort of realized on reflection, there's no need to do that. And I guess sort of by way of example, when I first became interested in the idea of being a lawyer as a teenager, it was pretty much based on watching, I don't think it's not on anymore, it's a TV show called The Bill, which is a police show, and then a show which I think was called Silk, which was about a criminal barrister. So for years I thought, well, if I'm ever lucky enough to be a lawyer, I'll have a wig on it and I'll be in the criminal court. And I'm yet to wear a wig. And I don't know, I suppose it is quite hard really to get an understanding of what what each area of law entails. TV obviously doesn't give an accurate representation often. So yeah, no, it was very much the latter, bit of a learning experience. And I would say again to any lawyers listening, definitely don't feel any pressure to be pigeonholing yourself in that way. Actually, is there something called the mock trial that still goes on at school? Yeah. So I did wear a wig. I did wear a wig because I did that one weekend, which is quite fun.
I competed earlier this year, and I think they came second.
Ah, very good. Well, that's better than we did. So well done. Well done.
You studied English at university and then went on to a career in law. Many of our friends in year 12 are hoping to go on to a career in law. What would your top tips be for success?
Are either of you guys thinking about it?
No.
Okay. I mean, first answer a boring one. Study hard, I think, because probably more than most careers, your sort of academic track record is sort of scrutinized perhaps for longer, even after you graduate from university. People will be looking at your A levels. And so I think if you can work hard now, you're never sort of going to have to explain, oh, I got this grade because, this, whatever. I think that really helps. But I don't know, more generally, I think there's probably, at least in recent years, quite a lot online about, if you want to be a lawyer and you want to go to do this, you want to go to this firm, you need to have this sort of like perfect CV, be the perfect candidate. And I don't think that's true. So I think my second bit of advice is actually relax a little bit. Just focus on the things that you like doing in terms of your academics and your extracurricular stuff. As I say, I studied English, and I think apart from the mock trial, hadn't really done much at school that would suggest that a career in law was where I was going to end up. But I do think if you've decided that's likely what you want to do, whether it's sort of in sixth form or when you go to university, sort of partaking in sort of things that might show like a future employer that you have had a bit of an interest in the field, it's helpful. So sort of like law societies at university and things like that. Yeah, I suppose that'd be my advice, but don't stress.
Thank you. So we're running out of time right now, and I just wanted to say a huge thank you on behalf of all the pupils at HGS for taking the time to talk to us today. We really do appreciate it.
No, absolute pleasure. Really, really good to talk to you both, and thanks for your time.
Thank you to everyone for watching today, and we'll see you at another Hulme Talk online very soon. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.